Okay, folks, here's yet another impulsively generated video. Um, so, George Orwell apparently said something like, liberty, or maybe freedom, is the ability to tell people what they don't want to hear. Um, so, there's an article available through techliberation.com called, Are You an Internet Optimist or Pessimist? The Great Debate Over Technology's Impact on Society. It's written by Adam Thierer, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I believe that young and old Americans should discuss this article together at some point, okay? Um, if you can go out and go to like a library or a coffee shop and introduce this to someone who's considerably older than you, if you're like 20 years old or something, then maybe they'll start to open your eyes about how, for a lot of people, the internet used to be a tool rather than almost like a secondary living space of sorts. So I am personally something of an internet optimist, but I'm a bit of a hardcore pessimist about things like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I think it's very important for us to not only preserve our native attentional gifts, but expand them through deliberate and, often discomfort-inducing choices. But I guess a lot of people would find that disgustingly boring or antiquarian perspective. So I don't speak up too much about that um, because, I guess most people my age, and certainly when they're younger here, are not running around worried about how many books they can read in a given month, even though that's something that is a pressing concern for me because I'm terrified of, what may be experienced as the final death of my ability to really focus on a problem and solve it within just a few months of concentrated effort. So this is a question I picked up from careful perusal of some old blog posts by Cal Newport back when he was writing the Study Hacks blog. He once wrote a great little book, and he's written plenty of excellent material since. It was called How to Be a Straight A Student or something, which sounds very cheesy, but it did help me do well in university, despite the fact that I sometimes had, attention controlling issues. So here's a question for you to keep in mind. Maybe before or as you get a smartphone, or TikTok or Facebook or Instagram or any of these popular tools. So it's before you adopt a technology or tool, ask yourself, which problem does it help me solve? Obviously, the technology of my eyeglasses helps me solve the problem of, myopia or functional deficiencies in my vision. So it makes my life easier, and therefore it makes other people's lives easier. It solves a clear problem. It's done that since I was a kid, and it's done it consistently. And so I'm going to keep paying different costs to get myself a nice pair of eyeglasses whenever I find to happen my current one lacking in an appropriate level of usefulness. But then when I think about something like, say, TikTok, or alcohol, or, I don't know, really expensive meals at fancy restaurants or something, these things are not necessarily tools or technologies, but obviously they're optional implements that may or may not be worth incorporating into my life. I can't help but think they don't really help me solve any important problems. So you should be wary of over-optimizing your life and trying to calculate a cost-benefit, profile for everything that you pursue, because that can suck the joy out of life really fast. You're a human and not a robot. Granted, some people are better at tactical planning than others. But if you are used to kind of shooting from the hip in every department of life and living on impulse, and this is something you want to keep in mind. I don't need an expensive laptop or computer. I have my $70 Chromebook with me, and it's still working reasonably well most of the time. So when it dies, I'm going to get myself a certified refurbished Chromebook or other laptop from eBay yet again, and I'm not going to spend hundreds, let alone 1,000 or more, on a new technology, because what I use the technology for is primarily dependent on features of my mind that have been cultivated. It's not primarily dependent on features of a technology upon which I'm growing an increasing and self-injurious extent of dependence. You know, whether or not you like him, it's important to keep in mind that for years, George R.R. Martin wrote using a primitive DOS machine rather than, modern word processors. The more you train and develop certain skills and competencies by yourself during your downtime using cheap tools, the less you need fancy technologies or anything fancy at all to keep you in a state of contentment and productivity. I believe that Grigory Perelman did not need anything more than fairly simple and cheap tools to help him work consistently on what's, maybe a seismic innovation within the world of mathematics and any other domains he's permeated with his majestic intellect. So that's some food for thought, okay? Always ask yourself, which problem does this technology or tool help me solve? All right, thank you for watching and have a good day. And God bless you, and stay sharp and sober.